This is Ohio.
This is Ohio.
Stories of people living quietly heroic lives.
This story takes place a while back, Christmas Eve, 2022. It was cold.
So cold. And there was snow. And in all of Licking County, there was only one low barrier shelter where anyone, couples, families, pets, could go.
So you and I checked it out.
We did.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. How many are you guys serving on average right now?
Right now, probably about 25.
And I heard you're allowing animals. But...
And we are allowing animals.
So where does it...
That's a volunteer dropping off food to the warming shelter at Holy Trinity Lutheran Church. It's Christmas Eve. The temperature is near zero, with wind chills much lower than that. This is the only warming shelter in Licking County that allows couples and pets. Deb Dingus is the pastor of Holy Trinity Lutheran. She explains why it's important to allow people's pets.
A lot of folks are struggling with PTSD, multiple levels of trauma and stress. And so the animals also provide a healing comfort to them in so many different ways. We had a woman who came in last night. She was so concerned about losing her dog. Her glove had gotten wet and she couldn't hold on to the leash, so she just took off her glove to hold on to the leash. She loves her dog. Her hand was severely frostbitten. We had to call the squad, and they've had to transport her to the burn unit. So she may lose fingers or hand to take care of her dog. Can you hold on a second? Hello, this is Deb.
Deb is often dealing with multiple issues at the same time. Someone heard that the shelter needs boots to give away, and Deb is giving some guidelines.
We need the larger sizes so they can put a few extra pair of socks on their feet and so that they'll fit in the boots. And what we're seeing is some of the guys' ankles and feet are swollen because they're just wearing cotton socks. So that's why we need the larger
After
size.
she's taken care of the boot issue, we get back to the story of the dog.
So her boyfriend is downstairs, and so he's now watching the dog. But they arrived separately because something had happened earlier.
The boyfriend's name is David. He is downstairs, where Sunday school classrooms have been transformed into small dorms. Thunder is the sweet-natured and silky-furred dog who means so much to his owners.
Thunder come. Thunder come.
Yeah.
It's all right. Do you live back in the woods?
Yeah.
Back there, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, in a tent.
Yeah.
And I mean, we kept warm that night and up to that morning.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he was underneath a couple blankets, we was underneath a couple blankets, just getting, staying cuddled with each other. Mm-hmm. That's how we stayed warm. And like I said, like, let's go.
When the Arctic storm hit the day before, David, his girlfriend, and Thunder needed to leave their tent in the woods on the outskirts of Newark and look for shelter in town. They started walking.
That's a long walk to Salvation Army. What was it like? What was the weather like? Like, can you talk a little
It was like that where we was at. It was, I mean, the wind's blowing and everything, but
yeah,
it wasn't as. I mean, it had the trees breaking it up and stuff.
Yeah.
But when you got up on the tracks and you started walking down the sun, it might as well say you went from there to the South Pole or North Pole.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the wind was cutting through you and the snow was coming through. It was cutting you like a knife. Then I carried him up the hill because his front paw and his back paw was getting, when it gets cold, he can't walk.
Yeah.
And he freezes like this, so he helped me and I helped him. And
16 miles away, Tawny, her fiancé, and her cat, Little Miss, were also looking for shelter in the midst of the storm. She first succeeded in finding shelter for Little Miss. Now, she and her fiancé sat in their pickup in a Kroger parking lot and called every shelter they could find.
Yeah, like 100 different places.
More than that.
Nothing.
It was like 120 and 150 different shelters around here.
Before they found this one.
I used the GPS because I didn't remember how to get here because I haven't been here in so long. And it took us down all back roads, which had not been plowed.
Oh my God.
And by the time I realized we were going down back roads, it was too late to turn around because there's just no hope turning around. It was dark out, the wind was blowing, the snow was just everywhere. Like it was just bad, and we almost crashed at least 3 different times. Thankfully, we didn't.
Tawny and her fiance settled into the shelter on the 23rd. They were able to go back today, Christmas Eve, to get Little Miss, who means so much to Tawny. This is how Little Miss got her name.
She started getting really spunky. She would look at me, make eye contact, and knock things off. And she wanted to play. And so she would play with the same things that she knocked off. Or I'd try to sit down and do art, and she'd crawl all over me because she was tiny and wanted to know what I was doing, which is totally fine. And so I started calling her Little Miss Asshole or Little Miss Brat or Little Miss Sassy Pants, or like if she yelled a lot, I'd call her Little Miss Talkative. It's not always bad names. Sometimes it's Little Miss Cuddlebug or whatever. But so she started answering to just Little Miss. And so I was like, that's her name. Like that, I guess that's her name. And now I've had her for 9 months, so it's too late to change her name now. And honestly, I love the story of it, so I've just kept it as her name because everyone always laughs, and she's a really good cat. And some parts of me believe that my grandma sent her to me because my grandma was a really good person. She died of Alzheimer's in 2019. And she was a very big advocate for community and connections and stuff like that. And I know my life would be a lot different if my grandma was still around. I'd have a place to go, regardless of what my parents thought of me. I'd have a place to go because she was just that person.
Down the hall from the dorms, an open area is set up with tables and chairs. There are colored pencils spread about and line-drawn Christmas pictures for coloring in. Tracy and Steve sit at one of the tables. They both talk about how they came from a middle-class place where housing was secure and they had plenty of possessions. Not that many years ago. They reflect on what it's like to need a place like this shelter on a night like this.
People look at you when you have a backpack and they know that you're homeless. They look at you in a different way. And everybody says they don't judge people, but that is, it's like he said, it's really hard to come from a background where you never had to ask, to having to ask for help. You know, a lot of people ask for help and they seem like they're okay with it, but in your heart, I don't think that you really are because, you know, they judge you and it's hard.
Yeah.
And I used to be the biggest judger of all. Just
you never really know.
so like I said, you learn a lot of humility.
That's when you really start learning. And
Yeah.
When was the first time you felt that?
About what?
You had come to that point where you needed to ask for help?
Well, when I started feeling humiliated about going to like friends and family and stuff, and getting, you know, like it's embarrassing, you know, like to know who I used to be, you know, to what I am now, and to know that it's not from no drug addictions or anything like that. That's about it. It gets like she said, it does get pretty humiliating, you know.
Mm-hmm. Occasionally, Christmas carols play in the background, but more often the shelter is quiet. There is no Christmas tree or bright decorations. But Deb Dingus, who is still there late on Christmas Eve, is aware of what day it is.
I think for those who share in the Christian faith and know the story about Christmas Eve, Mary and Joseph went to their hometown, and there was no place for them in the inn. So they made do in a stable where the cattle sleep, where the dung is, where the smelly stuff is. And I think what's significant about that is that God, if we think of this from a spiritual perspective, God comes and dwells in the messiness of our human existence. And we're challenged through that story to ask the question, can we make room in our lives, in our day-to-day lives? Will we make room in our houses? Do we make room in our churches? Do we make room in our businesses? Do we make room in our communities? Do we make room for what is sacred in our secular world? Because that's exactly what God does.
Well, in the word you just used, so what's the sacredness? What's sacred to you about this warming shelter today and tonight and tomorrow?
The beautiful souls of these people who are here. God dwells in each one of them. And our doors are open.
Tawny is also aware of what day this is. She's thinking about Jesus, but like the other residents, she's also aware that in 2 days, the temperature will climb above 15 degrees, and that means the warming shelter will close. And she's thinking about that, too.
I've had some very strong words with Jesus through all of this because he got me through having the worst panic attack that lasted 2.5 weeks long, where I wasn't eating, I wasn't drinking, I wasn't even smoking cigarettes at that time, and I thought I was going to die every single day, all day. All I did was sleep so I wouldn't have to feel anxiety. And he somehow got me through that to where I'm functioning again, I can eat again and everything. And now I'm like, okay. Now what do I do? Like, I looked at the cross earlier in the sanctuary, and I was like, okay, here I am. What do you want me to do? And I don't know. There's like nowhere to go. No one knows where to go for Monday from here, and it's terrifying.
Alexander Hoovan-Reith played solo violin on this story.
Additional music for This Is Ohio by Matt Jackford.
The Licking County Warming Shelter was organized and executed by Nancy Whaley,
Sean Grady,
Linda Mossholder,
Deb Dingus,
Tim Callahan,
Katie Beaver,
Amy Dell,
Jeff Gill,
Trish Perry,
and many other volunteers.
Additional support was provided by Licking Memorial Hospital,
Newark Homeless Outreach,
and Pathways 211.
This story was produced by Jack Schuler.
That's you and me, Doug Swift, and edited by
Doug Swift.
That's me.
This Is Ohio received funding from the Denison University Research Fellowship.
You can find a multimedia version of this story on our website at thereportingproject.org.
You'll find pictures and also a story by Jack Schuler, me, that gives a greater context to the homeless situation in Licking County.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.